Welcome back to another episode of Homebuyer University. I'm Dominic Villa.
And I'm Andrew Montero. And today we're going to be jumping into everything credit reports, credit scores. Why do we need them when being pre-approved for a mortgage?
Yeah, so credit is probably one of the biggest hot button topics for any buyer that I've ever worked with. It's something that everyone knows is important, doesn't really quite understand in full how it works or how it impacts your mortgage options. So let's dive into all things credit. So let's start with the basics. Why do mortgage companies pull your credit?
So first off, a credit report is kind of the eyes into how you've managed debt in the past. So the first thing that the bank that you're getting pre-approved through wants to know is, how has that been? Have there been issues? Have there been mishaps in the past? Have you managed money pretty well? That's where you get your credit score from. Everyone's familiar with their credit score, and that's really what the score is a reflection of.
Yeah, the best indicator of future performance, you paying your debts, is basically past performance, how you've paid your debts in the past.
Exactly. The other reason we're going to pull your credit report is to start shaping together your debt to income ratio.
What is debt to income ratio again?
Debt to income ratio is your gross monthly income versus your liabilities, your debt versus your income.
And those liabilities, how do we determine those?
Your credit report.
Yes. So we look at that credit report and do a hard inquiry to, again, look at your score, which tells us how good you've handled debt in the past, as well as giving us an insight to any other bills or obligations that you have, so we can factor it into your debt to income ratio.
A big concern folks have when we go to mention, or when we mention the credit report is this going to affect my score? So can you shed a little bit of insight as to how it does affect your score?
Yeah, so like what we find is that hard credit inquiry definitely feels like a dirty word or something that people are generally afraid of. And I do like that because it shows that you care about protecting your credit score. However, a mortgage credit pool is going to be one of the most in-depth pools you can possibly have, with the smallest impact on your score via hard inquiry.
Hard credit inquiries are often a reason that folks may not want to shop because they feel like that it may affect their score too much. Is that really the truth?
Short answer, no. Long answer, let's dive in a little bit. So there are three major credit bureaus: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, and they each give you a grace period where you can go out and have as many lenders as you want run your credit within a certain time frame, and it doesn't impact your score more than just one inquiry would. So they actually empower you to go out and shop and do your due diligence. However, we want to keep in mind what those time periods are. Of those three credit bureaus, two give you a 45-day window to go have your credit run a million times if you wanted to. The third, though, only gives you 15 days. So if you're getting out there and you're looking to shop around or have your credit run from multiple institutions, try and do it within a 2-week period. Now, with that being said, if you're talking to any mortgage banks, lenders, or advisors out there, there's one really big red flag if someone's telling you information around this that could be slightly skewed. Andrew, what is that red flag?
The red flag is if they tell you that once they pull your credit, to not shop anywhere else, because as Dominic just laid out for us, there is a window for you to do what's best for you.
Yeah, and if they tell you not to do what's best for you, they're probably trying to do what's best for them. And is that someone you really want to be working with?
So oftentimes when you're getting ready to shop or start the pre-approval process, you may have a general idea of where your score is at. And that typically comes from consumer apps such as Credit Karma, or even your banking apps or your credit cards will give you a free score. Can you give us any insight as to what kind of weight those scores hold? Are they legitimate? Tell us about them.
Yeah, legitimate is a loose kind of word for them. They are a very good barometer of where your score is, but they're not going to be your exact score. And oftentimes you're going to find that the score on those consumer-facing apps like Credit Karma or your banking apps is going to be sometimes 15 to 40 points off from your real score that we see on the mortgage side. Now, why is that?
These apps tend to grade on different scales. So what that means is the scoring model that they use it does hold some weight, right? It's got some information, but it's not going to be as accurate or as pinpoint as the actual mortgage credit report.
Yeah, oftentimes they'll actually miss some things because it's not as in-depth. As a personal story, I was checking my credit before I bought my first house, and every consumer-facing app that I had said my credit score is about 760. When I went and had my mortgage report pulled, my credit score came back at a whopping 646. And it's because there was a $250 medical collection that wasn't being reported that apparently had been sent to my parents' old address that was never resolved and impacted my credit score more than 100 points. So I was able to pay that off and boost that score back up, but it definitely impacted my options when I bought my first house.
Which kind of edifies what you were saying earlier. Sometimes you don't know what's on there. The mortgage credit report is going to be in depth. It may even help you find little things like that and clean up things that you didn't even know about.
Exactly. And so while those consumer-facing apps, again, are a great barometer of where your score is and how it's moving, it's not essentially gospel to live by, kind of so to speak. It is a good barometer, but that mortgage credit inquiry is going to be the most in-depth, accurate, and the one they actually use when determining your mortgage options.
A hard credit inquiry is not necessarily just a bad thing, right? It comes with some positives, and can you maybe shine some light on what those positives are?
Of course. So like what we've already said is one of the big positives is it helps you get your approval in line and know exactly what your rate, your program, and what your qualifications are. But that other benefit is a little bit more intrinsic. Any lender that's running your credit is going to have access to credit simulator tools where they can take a look at where your credit is and maybe certain adjustments that you could potentially make to improve it. And improving your score with some simple action items that a lender can give you can ultimately open up the door to better rates, better programs, better affordability, and the list keeps on going on. So a hard credit inquiry isn't just a bad word or a negative.
Right.
It's one of the most helpful things you can do when getting ready to buy a home, but also just making sure your credit's in line and you don't get caught with fun medical bill surprises like I did.
So to recap, a hard inquiry on your credit isn't as scary as everyone makes it out to be. You're going to get your credit score. You'll get to see exactly what your scores are with all three bureaus. You'll get an in-depth analysis of your credit report. And if you need a positive step forward to improve your score, the data is going to be there. Your lender is going to be able to use their wayfinders and help push you in that right direction.
Yeah, so just keep in mind that hard inquiry, not that bad. Minimal impact on your actual score. And if you keep your credit in line, it usually recovers pretty quickly. And if you do have some credit problems, it gives you a much better insight to how to fix them and get on that path forward to ultimately improve your options, purchasing power, rates, and all things mortgage. It also just doesn't hurt to watch your credit and have a good understanding of where it's at.